The night Emily Carter realized her life was about to change forever began like any other quiet American evening. Rain streaked down the windows of a modest home in Maplewood, New Jersey, blurring the streetlights into soft gold lines. Inside, warm lamps glowed. A jazz song hummed low, and the smell of coffee mixed with rain-soaked air. Everything felt safe, familiar, and yet something invisible was already pulling apart the seams of her world. Emily stood near the kitchen counter, her fingers brushing the edge of a mug she hadn't touched. Across the room, her husband Daniel laughed. It was a calm, easy laugh, the kind that had once made her fall in love with him. He wasn't laughing with her, though. He was laughing with Claire Morgan. Claire had been part of Emily's life for more than a decade. They met in college, survived bad roommates, failed relationships, and long nights dreaming about better futures. Claire was bold where Emily was careful, expressive where Emily stayed quiet. They balanced each other, or at least they always had. Daniel liked Claire. Emily knew that. Everyone liked Claire. She was warm, sharp, and emotionally open. What Emily hadn't known was how closely Daniel listened to her, how naturally the three of them fit into the same space, like a shape that made sense without explanation. Daniel stepped outside to take a phone call, leaving Emily and Claire alone. The jazz song continued, but the room felt suddenly too quiet. Claire turned toward Emily, her face serious in a way Emily hadn't seen before. "Can I say something honest?" she asked. Emily smiled weakly. "You always do." Claire shook her head. "No, this is different." Emily felt her chest tighten. She nodded. Claire took a breath, steadying herself. "I think I've crossed an emotional line, and I don't want to pretend I haven't." Emily's smile faded. "What kind of line?" Claire's eyes shimmered. "I've developed feelings for Daniel." The words landed softly but carried weight. Emily didn't gasp. She didn't shout. She just stood there, frozen, as if the room had tilted slightly to one side. Claire spoke quickly, afraid of silence. "I would never act on it. I would never hurt you. I needed you to know because hiding it feels wrong." Emily swallowed. Her heart pounded, but her voice stayed calm. "Why tell me now?" "Because I respect you," Claire said. "And because pretending this doesn't exist won't make it go away." Emily wanted to deny it, to say Claire was confused, but instead memories rushed in small moments she had ignored. Daniel staying longer in conversations with Claire. Claire looking at Daniel when she thought no one noticed. Emily feeling like a third presence in her own space. The back door opened. Daniel stepped inside, rain on his jacket, phone in hand. "Everything okay?" "Yes," Emily said quickly. Too quickly. Dinner passed in polite conversation. Laughter sounded normal. Plates were cleared. But Emily felt like she was watching her life through glass. That night, Emily lay awake beside Daniel, listening to the rain grow heavier. The bed felt wider than usual. Her thoughts raced, crashing into each other. Finally, she spoke. "Daniel?" He turned toward her. "Yeah. If someone close to us had feelings for you, would you want to know?" He frowned slightly. "That's a strange question." "Just answer it." He thought for a moment. "I guess I'd want honesty." Emily closed her eyes. Her voice trembled. What if that honesty changed things? Daniel sat up a little. "Emily, what's going on?" She stared at the ceiling. "Claire told me she has feelings for you." Silence filled the room. Daniel didn't speak right away. He ran a hand through his hair, processing. "I had no idea," he finally said, and she believed him. Emily's chest tightened. "She asked me something." Daniel turned fully toward her. What did she ask? Emily's heart pounded so loudly she thought he might hear it. "She asked if I would share." Daniel froze. "Share me." Emily nodded, tears slipping silently down her face. "I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I told her I couldn't decide." Daniel's voice was gentle but shaken. "Why would you even consider that?" Emily turned toward him. "Because I don't want lies in our life. And because I feel something has already changed between us." Daniel searched her face. "Emily, I love you," Shay said softly. "That's why I trust you." She took a deep breath, forcing the words out. "So I told her I'd let you decide." Daniel stared at her, stunned. The rain outside grew louder, like the world reacting to the moment. The next morning felt unreal. Sunlight streamed through the windows as if nothing had happened. Emily moved through the house quietly. Daniel watched her, unsure of what to say. Claire didn't come over that day, or the next. Daniel went for a long walk, his thoughts tangled. He replayed every interaction, every laugh, every look. He felt loyalty pulling him in one direction, responsibility in another. Mostly, he felt fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of losing the woman who trusted him enough to hand him her heart without conditions. Days passed in emotional tension. Emily tried to act normal, but her eyes were tired. Daniel noticed everything. He noticed how she flinched at small silences, how she waited for him to speak first. Finally, Daniel texted Claire and asked to meet. They sat on a park bench near the river, cold wind brushing past them. Claire looked nervous. "I never wanted to cause this," she said. "I know," Daniel replied, "but we can't pretend it didn't happen." She nodded. "I understand if you hate me." "I don't," he said honestly, "but I need clarity." Claire looked down at her hands. "Emily said you would decide." Daniel sighed. "And that's why this hurts." He stood up, looking at the river. "I love my wife. I won't do anything that puts her second." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "So that's it." "That's it," he said gently. They didn't touch. They didn't argue. They let the truth stand between them. When Daniel returned home that evening, Emily was sitting on the couch, waiting. She didn't ask where he'd been. She already knew. He sat beside her, took her hands. "I choose you." Emily broke down, her emotions spilling free. Relief, pain, love, fear. All at once. But somewhere beneath it all, a quiet understanding formed. The question had been asked. The choice had been made. And nothing in their lives would ever feel simple again. The morning after Daniel made his choice, Emily woke to sunlight streaming through the blinds, falling in golden stripes across the bedroom floor. It should have felt normal, but nothing about that morning felt ordinary. The weight of the previous days hung between them like an invisible curtain, heavy yet fragile. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers intertwined, staring at her reflection in the mirror across the room. Her reflection seemed different, somehow stronger, yet more vulnerable at the same time. Daniel, standing by the window, looked out at the quiet street. Coat still on from an early walk, the tension in his shoulders unmistakable. He turned slowly, meeting her gaze. "Emily." His voice was soft, almost breaking the silence, and she felt a shiver of anticipation. "Are you okay?" She swallowed, nodding. "I will be eventually." Her voice carried a mix of uncertainty and determination. The way someone might sound when they're trying to hold together pieces that could shatter at any moment. Daniel came closer, sitting beside her, careful not to touch, but close enough that the warmth between them was palpable. They didn't speak for a while, letting the quiet fill the room. Outside, a breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain from the night before. It was a small comfort, grounding them in the world that had shifted beneath their feet. Later that afternoon, Daniel decided to face the situation head on. He called Claire and asked to meet her at the small park near the river, the one with benches lined under the old oak trees. The park had been a place of laughter, secrets, and endless conversations in simpler times. Now it felt like neutral ground, a place where truths could be spoken without the constraints of home or intimacy. Claire arrived, shivering slightly in the cold, her hair damp from the light drizzle that had begun again. Her hands trembled as she held a coffee cup, and her eyes were wary, searching Daniel for any sign of anger, rejection, or betrayal. He could see the fear behind her brave front, the vulnerability that only surfaced when someone truly cared. "I never wanted this," Claire said, breaking the silence immediately. Her voice was low but firm, carrying the weight of months of hidden emotions. "I never wanted to interfere with your life. I never meant to complicate things." Act. Daniel nodded slowly. "I know that," he replied, his voice calm, steady, but threaded with the seriousness of the decision he had to make. "I also know that honesty matters. You told me how you felt because you trusted me to handle it responsibly." Claire's eyes filled with tears. I needed you to understand. I wasn't asking for anything. I just couldn't keep pretending anymore." Daniel studied her face carefully. He remembered every moment Emily had hesitated when she told him about Claire's feelings, every second of quiet that followed, every glance shared between them that had seemed innocent but now felt charged with unspoken truth. "This isn't easy," he said. "Nothing about this is easy." "I know," Claire whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "And I don't expect it to be." They sat on the bench together, the river flowing steadily beside them, reflecting the gray sky. The scene was almost cinematic, the kind that makes you believe that life is scripted for dramatic revelation. Claire's tears fell quietly, and Daniel felt a surge of empathy. He wanted to comfort her, to tell her that things would be okay. But he knew that the only comfort she needed right now was honesty. And honesty demanded boundaries, clarity, and, above all, respect for the person he had chosen to love most, Emily. "I love Emily," Daniel said finally, his words firm, deliberate. "I've always loved her. And I cannot betray that love. Not now, not ever. What I can do is be honest with you and make sure that no one is hurt further." Claire's shoulders slumped, her tears falling more freely now, but there was a quiet acceptance in her expression. She nodded slowly. "I get it. I do. And I don't hate you for it, Daniel. I'm sad. I'm sad for myself and for the friendship I thought could always exist without complication." Daniel nodded again, feeling the weight of the moment settle into his chest. "This doesn't have to end our friendship, Claire. It just has to evolve. It has to become something sustainable, something that doesn't hurt anyone." The wind picked up, carrying leaves across the path, brushing against their coats. It was a moment suspended in time where the decisions of the heart felt monumental. Yet the world continued to turn, indifferent to human emotion. Daniel stood and offered his hand to Claire. She hesitated, then took it, allowing him to help her to her feet. No hugs, no lingering touches, just acknowledgement and mutual understanding. They parted ways with a small, tentative wave, each of them carrying the weight of clarity and acceptance in different ways. That evening, Daniel returned home to Emily. She was waiting in the living room, her posture tense but poised. She didn't ask where he had been. She already knew he had gone to meet Claire. The house felt different now, quieter, yet filled with an undercurrent of hope. Daniel approached her, sitting down on the couch beside her. He took her hands in his, feeling the familiar warmth and reassurance of her presence. The moment was tender, full of unspoken emotions and subtle intensity. He looked her in the eyes and said the words she had been waiting for. The words that held the power to mend what had been fragile. "I choose you," he said, firm, unshakable. "I choose us. I choose every day with you, no matter what happens." Emily felt tears spring to her eyes. But they weren't just tears of relief. They were tears of recognition, understanding, and love. The weight of uncertainty lifted slightly, replaced by a new sense of trust. She leaned into him, allowing herself to breathe, to feel, to accept the reality they had carefully navigated. In that moment, she realized that love wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about the absence of challenges or temptations. It was about commitment, honesty, and the courage to make difficult choices. Over the following weeks, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Claire gave them space, retreating into her own life while remaining a part of their circle in subtle ways. She learned to respect the boundaries Daniel had established without resentment. And Emily found herself rediscovering the qualities in Claire she had always admired: resilience, kindness, and loyalty without fear or jealousy. Daniel and Emily communicated more openly than they had in years, discussing emotions, insecurities, and the small details that make a relationship thrive. Their marriage, once quiet and steady, became vibrant again, infused with the intimacy of shared vulnerability. Emily often reflected on the moment that had almost unraveled everything. She thought about the question she had asked Daniel, the question that forced him to confront the complexity of human emotion. She realized that the strength of their love wasn't measured by who felt something for Daniel, but by who chose each other. Day after day, with honesty and respect. The experience had been painful, yes, but it had also been transformative. It had revealed the depth of their bond, the resilience of their hearts, and the power of communication in preserving love. Daniel, too, carried the lessons with him. He understood that love wasn't passive. It required conscious decisions, empathy, and integrity. He valued the trust Emily had placed in him, the courage it took for her to step aside momentarily and allow him to navigate a delicate situation. In choosing her, he reaffirmed not just his love, but his commitment to the principles that had guided their relationship from the start: trust, respect, and unwavering loyalty. One evening, as the sun set over Maplewood, Emily and Daniel sat on their porch, sipping tea and watching the sky turn shades of pink and gold. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain and earth. They didn't speak much, but the silence was comfortable, filled with understanding. Emily rested her head on Daniel's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that had always been hers to rely on. They had faced uncertainty, navigated temptation, and emerged stronger, not because the challenges had vanished, but because they had confronted them together. In the months that followed, the trio's dynamic shifted subtly but significantly. Claire remained in their lives, a friend still, but one who understood the limits and honored them. Emily and Daniel grew closer, their connection deeper, their intimacy more nuanced. They discovered that love, when tested, doesn't necessarily fracture. It can adapt, evolve, and flourish in ways they had never imagined. Each conversation, each shared laugh, each moment of quiet reflection reinforced the bond they had chosen to protect. Emily often thought back to that rainy night when Claire had confessed her feelings. It was a night that could have destroyed everything. Yet it had given them clarity, honesty, and an opportunity to redefine their love. She realized that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in moments of vulnerability. By trusting Daniel to make the right choice, she had allowed their love to prove its resilience. And Daniel, in choosing her, had shown that true love is not measured by desire alone, but by conscious, deliberate commitment. Late at night, Emily and Daniel would sometimes lie awake, discussing the what-ifs and reflecting on how close they had come to losing themselves in fear or confusion. They acknowledged the fragility of trust, the importance of communication, and the power of forgiveness, not just for each other, but for Claire as well.